it's Andrea from the team at We Love Baking. Today I'm going to share with you how to make a perfectly seasonal apple and blackberry crumble. Let's get baking. So we're going to start with the fruit filling. I went out earlier with my children and we picked some blackberries together. They have been washed and dried and are ready to be used. And I also have some Bramley apples here. Now these are really lovely big apples. The apples that you choose don't have to be Bramley, but make sure they are tart or sour apples, just because that will give you a really lovely balance of flavours in your crumble. So with our apples, to start with, I'm going to peel them, get all the skin off, and then I'm going to chop them into small pieces before we start mixing everything together. So that's the last of my apples all chopped up. It is time to get my sugar measured out for my fruit filling. So into a mixing bowl, I'm going to pop in some cinnamon, some corn flour. So to that, I'm also going to add some sugar. I'm using granulated sugar today. It's going to give me a really lovely sweet flavour. And the reason I love Tate & Lyle as well is because it uses cane sugar rather than beet sugar for an extra sweetness and none of the earthiness that you can get with some beet sugars. So into my bowl, I'm going to measure out my sugar. Now I like this, my family likes our crumbles, the fruit filling slightly more tart, but if you prefer it sweeter, add a little bit more sugar to suit your tastes. There we go, all done. I'm going to give this a mix around. Now in case you were wondering with the corn flour in this mixture, what it's going to do with the fruit, because as the fruit cooks up, it will release some liquid, it will release the juices of the fruit. And what the corn flour is going to do is it's going to act as a thickener, and it's going to make it into a thick, saucy consistency rather than being really runny. So you get a nice sauce with your fruit filling, and that's not going to then affect your crumble topping, which might go soggy if you have a really liquidy base underneath it. Right, so now my sugar mixture is all combined. You can see it's all evenly combined in there. That is going to go in with my apples, and I'm going to toss all that together. And I'm going to pop these in now and give that another mix, but a bit more gently this time, to try and not break up the fruit too much. So that has just mixed all the way through so that all my blackberries are evenly distributed between my apples as well. I'm going to leave that aside while I make my crumble topping just for a few minutes. What that's going to do is that's going to allow the juices from the fruit to come out and mix with the sugar and the cinnamon and the corn flour and start that whole process of all the flavours coming together beautifully. So that's set aside for a moment. Now, into another bowl, I'm going to start making my crumble topping. So into a fresh mixing bowl, I'm going to pop in my oats. Now, I love using oats in crumble toppings because it actually gives a really lovely crunchy texture. So I'm doing a mixture today of oats and plain flour. So my oats going in first. And to that, I'm also going to add some plain flour. And finally, some unsalted butter. Now, this is the fun bit. We're going to get stuck in with our hands. You can use a pastry cutter if you want. You can do this in a food processor, but I actually really love getting stuck in with clean hands, of course. And all you want to do is you're mixing everything together and rubbing that butter in. If you can see, you're wanting to squeeze it a bit and rub it in with the flour and the oats. So everything will get coated in this beautiful buttery loveliness. So those topping ingredients are now mixed together. It's time to add our final ingredient for the toppings. And this is, of course, my sugar. So for the topping, I'm actually going to use dark brown soft sugar, just because it's going to give me a much more caramelly, really rich flavour to my crumble topping, which I think works so well with the cinnamon and the fruit and everything in the base. So I'm going to measure out 120 grams of this sugar into my bowl. So that is my sugar all measured out. And now, instead of getting my hands dirty again, I'm just going to use my spoon and mix it all together. And a quick mix together and my crumble topping is ready to go. So now all that remains to do is to bring it all together. So I've got in my previous bowl my fruit. Now that has been sitting for about 5 or 10 minutes while I was making the crumble topping. I'm going to give it one more mix around, and you can see as I mix it, the juices of the blackberries have started to release themselves. So it started to go beautiful red colour. You can see all the way through that. And what's going to happen when it's baking is those juices will keep coming out, but then the corn flour is going to help thicken it and make it a beautiful, saucy gorgeousness. So into my baking tin, I'm going to pop fruit mixture. And once you have got all your fruit in, you want to push it down a little bit. And that's going to give you a little bit more room on top for your crumble topping to go on over it. So I flattened that down because that's going to give me a nice base for my crumble topping to go over, but also the fruit as it bakes will actually break down and it will flatten anyway in the oven. So it just means that there's more room for me to get more of this beautiful crumble topping over the top of it. All I'm going to do with this, rather than tipping it over, is I'm going to use my spoon to spread it out nice and evenly. And you can see, because of the mixture of the oats and the flour and the butter and all of it, it's already going on in some bigger lumps and smaller lumps, and that's all brilliant. That is perfect. So once you've got all your crumble topping on there, it is time for us to pop that in the oven. So while I've been preparing my crumble, I've had my oven preheating behind me. It's been preheating at 180 Celsius or 350 Fahrenheit. And now my crumble topping is done. All that's left to do is pop it in the oven. And there you have it, a gorgeous apple and blackberry crumble. You can enjoy this with ice cream or with custard, or just quite simply on its own. It's beautiful every single way. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe, and let us know in the comments below if you make this too. Thanks for joining us today, friends. Happy baking.